The Secluded Springs is confirmed coming on August 28th to Pokemon Pocket, bringing with it more Gen 2 favorites. Suicune, Entei, and Raikou, the legendary trio, are coming. Let's go ahead and dive on into what these cards are going to do and give a little bit of speculation on what they could shape up in the Pokemon Pocket metagame. All three members of this legendary trio have the same ability, Legendary Pulse, which seems incredibly powerful. At the end of your turn, if this Pokemon is in your active spot, draw a card. Pokemon Pocket is a game with only 20 card decks, and drawing even one additional card tends to add a lot of value and consistency to anything that's playing a card that allows it. And these cards will be able to splashable in any of their colors, likely being format staples for the foreseeable future. We've seen previous cards that get added to the game, like Sylveon EX, that draw additional cards that are splashed into a variety of decks. And while that one can draw from the bench, these leads all have pretty reasonable 2 energy attacks, with Entei here having Blazing Beatdown, dealing a base 60 for 2, and then if you have extra energy on it, it can deal 140 for 4. Next up, we have Raikou here, 130 HP with that legendary pulse, another 2 energy attack, dealing 60, while also dealing a chip shot into your opponent's bench for 10 points of damage. This one sets you up for copies of Cyrus really cleanly, letting you grab things up with your finisher that might not otherwise be within reach. Finally, Suicune here might be the most powerful of these three, still with that legendary pulse, and this one having 140 HP like Entei. Its Crystal Waltz does 20 damage for each bench Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's. So if you fill your bench out, this is doing 60 for 2, and then everything your opponent has adds to it as well, and you get up to as high as 120 for 2 energy. This card's definitely going to add a little bit of tension to gameplay and deck building in Pokemon Pocket. Cards like Red Card and Mars are things that you've been able to play around in the past by playing out your cards proactively so they don't end up in your hand, but Suicune could make it a real liability in a matchup where your opponent is starting with water energy to play your cards out, giving them this really big attack on this Pokemon that they want to be leading on so they can get drawing with Legendary Pulse. While obviously things can work out in practice a lot different than they are in theory, I'm struggling to see a world where these three legendary Pokemon aren't new instant format staples for the foreseeable future in Pokemon Pocket. To date, they've been very sparing with the cards that they put the ability to draw extra cards on, which I think in general is smart. The small deck sizes in Pocket mean that drawing even one extra card has a ton of value, and these, if they're your lead Pokemon, are likely going to draw you 2 or even 3 extra cards over the course of the game. They also have not amazing, but pretty serviceable 2 energy attacks, and basically any fire, water, or lightning deck for the foreseeable future, if it wants to finish on an EX or perhaps even a Mega EX in the not too distant future later this year that's playing these types, likely will love leading on one of these. You get to get some chip shots of damage in, or even just leave them up front to take hits and draw cards while you build up something behind them. And the fact that they have the ability to attack or just take hits for you and they're only basics is a big deal. We've seen Sylveon EX get splashed into so many different decks, and while that one doesn't need to be in your lead slot, the fact that it is 2 cards to get together to draw, meaning it takes 4 slots in your deck, is a big deal compared to these that you can slot in for 1. I think the big question in my mind is, will this effect be powerful enough that it's worth splashing into decks where you can't attack with them, similar to how we've seen Sylveon function? We also got a number of non-EX Pokemon confirmed in our spoiler video today, which is linked in the video description down below if you want to watch it in full yourself, with Manatike being the ones that I'm most excited to play. We've just got Splashy Toss here that's templated identical to Pichu and Magby from our first couple of packs. That lets you grab a water energy from your zone and attach it to one of your basic benched Pokemon. This is an effect that any deck that had previously been playing Manaphy is absolutely going to love to play. This could perhaps be something that puts Gyarados EX and other water Pokemon that have really been struggling back on the map. Having this type of effect that lets you power up when going first is super strong. I could see exploring with it in things like old favorites like Starmie EX that can consistently hit for 90 on that second turn, like we've seen Pichu breathe life back into things like Genetic Apex Pikachu in our previous expansion. Next up, we have solid utility on a stage 1 Pokemon. Miloctic here, 120 HP with Healing Ripples. Once during your turn, when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve something, you may heal 60 damage from one of your water Pokemon. This notably has a 1 water and colorless energy attack and Aqua Edge here, dealing 60. So I'll be curious to see if there's something you perhaps want to splash this in with. Its healing is restricted, but its attack gives you some flexibility in playing a second energy type alongside it. Next up, we have a really interesting pair of cards, obviously designed to be played together. We have the Traveling Merchant that lets you look at the top 4 cards of your deck and put all Pokemon tools you find there into your hand, shuffling the rest back in. And Slowking, a 130 HP stage 1, whose Litter attack discards up to 2 Pokemon tool cards from your hand, doing 50 damage for each card you've discarded this way. In theory, having a guaranteed 100 point damage attack on a stage 1 is incredibly powerful. It means you're guaranteed to clear out basics that have 60 HP, and even things like EX EV can go down in a single shot. That being said, the Litter attack does absolutely nothing if you don't have Pokemon tools to discard, and this Pokemon has a retreat cost of 3. So this was a card where if you lead on it, you could have an aggressive attack or 2 maybe, but then you're likely going to be giving up a point. Now, the aggression from this and the fact that it only needs 1 energy to get going and a pretty solid HP pool means that you do have time to set up other things behind it. I think this is definitely going to be a card that I'm going to be interested to build with, because these big aggressive burst decks I think are some of the more interesting to play in Pocket, especially one that can be attached to a 1 knockout point Pokemon, meaning you can cleanly go 1 knockout point, 1 knockout point, finish on some type of solid EX behind it. Finally, we got Latias and Latios introduced as a pair. Latias here, a 90 HP basic whose Cross Flight's attack does a base 20 and then does 20 additional if Latios is on your bench. And Latios is a 110 HP basic whose 3 energy attack. Luster Purge does a solid 120 point hit, but it discards all energy from this Pokemon to do it. Its ability also says if you have a Latias in play, this card has no retreat cost. So the kind of idea here is a 1-2 punch. You start with Latias and get some 40 point chip shots in. You could switch to Latios once it's built up and do that 120 point burst. And then if your opponent doesn't clear it out on the backswing and it doesn't win you the game with its attack, you could free retreat back into your Latias to be cracking for 40. I'll be interested to see if these cards are powerful enough to make inroads in our current metagame. My initial gut reaction is that having to save up 3 energy for a 120 point burst probably isn't worthwhile, especially when you can't do it 2 turns in a row. That being said, these are both basic Pokemon and they're only 1 knockout point, so you have a little bit more wiggle room there because your opponent's gonna have to knock out more of them to get through to the end, and they take up less slots in your deck. These basic only focused strategies are ones that we've seen be powerful in the past, albeit typically more EX focused ones. Personally, I'm super excited that we're not leaving Gen 2 without getting one of my favorite legendary trios introduced to the game, and I'm super happy that they look templated to be powerful enough to have some staying power in Pokemon Pocket moving forward. I would love to hear in the comments down below which of these new cards you're excited to play with and what existing decks you think they could fit into or what new decks you think they could open up. I'm looking forward to diving into the set live on stream on August 28th when it drops, and we'll have a ton of fantastic highlights here, as always, showcase the most successful and powerful decks that come from it. As always, I appreciate everybody that made it all the way through to the end of the video. If you enjoyed my summary today, make sure you smash that like button. If you happen to be new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't make it back again in the future. Thanks for watching, and I hope your next pack is an excellent one.